Welcome back, Gadgeteers. So, I guess we would consider this part 2 of my network upgrade. So, I have here my Linksys AC adapter, USB adapter. Yeah, let me see if I can get the number in there in case you want to check something out. Check that out. It's even got a barcode on it. It just basically stopped working. Literally 5 minutes after I got done shooting the video for part 1 of the network upgrade. So what did I have to do? Not what you think. I went to my backup network card. So this is a Netgear, and I've had this one for I would say at least 5 years, if not more. This is an N-type network card, USB network card adapter, if you will. And here's the info on that one. And it also came with a little cable extension and a mount to hold it up so that it would get maximum Wi-Fi range. It actually works really good, but it's really slow, and it only sees the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum. So yeah, this isn't working out. So what did I do? Well, so far nothing. I'm still using this, but let me show you what I got. Everybody's friend, Amazon. All right, let's open this package. Inside we have what looks kind of be a little bit chintzy AX 3000 wireless USB adapter by edup. Really the only reason I chose this was for 2 reasons. One, it was very inexpensive, and 2, supposedly it will work with Linux in kernel. You may wonder what in kernel means. Essentially it means that when I plug this in, Linux should recognize it immediately because it has a driver built into the kernel, so I don't have to add an external driver. The cool thing is, if you ever had to deal with external drivers in Linux, then you know what a chore it can be. Many times you have to compile it, and every time you do an upgrade of any sort, like a kernel upgrade, you end up having to recompile the driver. So a little bit frustrating. So what we've got here is hopefully a network card that will help us avoid that. Let me see if I can close in on this. All right, we have the edup Wi-Fi 6E AX 3000 wireless USB adapter. I got the 6E because it was only $23, and I'm thinking in future terms here. So it says it's IEEE 802.N, GB, AC, and AX. I'm reading from the top line there. And frequency range 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz and 6 gigahertz. Excellent. Now the next line, I'm not sure what it means. 2 times 6 dBi dual band antenna, and I'm assuming the dBi is decibels. So I would imagine the higher the number, the more superior the device will work because it'll get a better signal. USB 3.0 high-speed connector. Windows 10, 11, Linux kernel 5.19 plus. That's what I wanted to see. Modulation techniques, OFDM, CCK-16-CAM, QAM, 64 CAM, and 1024 CAM. Operating up to 7 degrees Celsius, minus 20 degrees Celsius, but I highly doubt I'll be using it in those conditions. Work mod, ad hoc infrastructure, Wireless security, this is very important, of course. It has 64 and 128 WEP, which is no good anymore. WPA, WPA2, which is pretty good. WPA PSK, TKP, TKIP, AES, and WPA3, which is really what we should be using. Honestly, though, anything after the WPA2 would be fine. Even WPA2 is fine, to be honest, from my rather limited knowledge about Wi-Fi security. These days, I used to know all about it, but these days I don't know much. Wi-Fi 6C. So what we're going to do with this adapter, we are going to, well, before we hook it up, I wanted to run a speed test and let you see how atrocious this thing is. It's going to be fun. Atrocious as in my old Wi-Fi adapter. So I'll put the old one in, and we'll have a look at what kind of speeds I'm getting from this. Then we'll put the new one in and we'll check speeds. Then we'll do some benchmarking and compare it to the old Wi-Fi AC adapter. I did not plug this right into the back of the computer. I got no signal if I did that. So what I did was I would take this and I would plug it into an extension USB cable and hang it over my lampshade so that it was hanging down in midair. And it definitely improved my signal when I did that. Won't have to do that with this one because it's got antennas. So I should be able to sit this on the table and call it good. I hope. All right, let's go and see what we can get out of this thing. I can't believe I did that. I had this package, I showed it to you, and I came back because I wanted to open it up and have you check it out. And unfortunately, I hadn't hit record, which is, I guess, really important if you want to record something. It came in this little bubble plastic here. Nothing too exciting. There's nothing else in the box. Came with the two antennas and the actual Wi-Fi adapter. Looks like it's got an LED on the front, on the top. What I found interesting about it is that it says AX3000 Wi-Fi 6, but it doesn't say 6E. That tiny little line above the 6 is, you know, like that Wi-Fi symbol showing connectivity going out. The bottom, good design. It's got a grid work there, so it definitely needs some cooling, which makes sense to me. So this is not something you would want to sit on a surface like this, like a blanket or something soft. So you can see, I don't know if you can tell, probably not. Well, even there you can't tell. The antennas are keeping it up just a little bit so that it can breathe. And it's got some venting on the sides. Now, let's go install this baby and see what it can do. All right, we're on the desktop computer. It is my 3950 AMD processor desktop computer. And I wanted to show you before we get started. I'm connected to my old, very old Netgear N-type router. N as in Nancy. I'm going to hang it up where I usually put it. And let's change over to medium mark. So you don't have to see this whole face. Well, you still have to see this whole face, but not quite as large. And we're going to go to speed test. And we'll click go. And see how bad it really is. You know, I don't know what's going on, but yesterday it was 40 megabits. So this is actually, you know, for an old N150 card. That's respectable. I mean, that's halfway decent. I was only getting in the 40s yesterday. So, wow. I'll just keep the old one then. What? I'll just take the new one back. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, that's decent. So we have our connection down here showing what we're connected to. We could connect to my extender, but we're not going to do that. So I'm going to pull out the old one and put in the new one, which may take a minute. Point them in the general direction of my router. Look at that. Looks like we've got a network connection already. And we are connected to Electric Eye. Let's do a refresh and see what happens. My upload for the most part is always going to be the same because, of course, I have a limit on the upload to 20 megabits, although they give you 20 megabits or better. But this? What? I'm showing 3 bars down here. I don't know if you can see that. Is there a configuration we can do? Let me get this down here where you can see it. Yeah, it's all automatic. There's really not much for me to have to do. I'm shocked. Well, let's run it again and see what we get. It's just dismal. So I've got my MacBook right here. I will do the same thing on that and see what we get. So they both have Wi-Fi 6, 6E. Yeah, the MacBook is doing 354, 355, 355.66 down. And upstream, it's looking pretty much like the other one. The max was 24.89. So, let me show you that here, if I can, without messing everything up. All right, there's the MacBook. I kind of expected that. I'm not happy. I'm not happy. I think what I'm going to do is do a reboot and we'll try it again, okay? So I'm going to hang up, as it were, and I'll be right back. Okay, we're back after a reboot. Let's bring up the browser and do another test and see what we get. Might as well get rid of those. So that last test, that was absolutely dismal. I'm not happy with that. This thing's going to go back if I can't get a better connection. The other network adapter I was thinking of getting is the Netgear NetHawk, and it costs about 3 times as much, but apparently it might be for good reason. Alright, we just rebooted. Let's see what we get. I was getting better with my 5-year-old Netgear adapter. Well, I'll try a couple of things. One thing I want to do is move it around and see if I get anything better. Wow. Now it's going to try and zoom it in for you. So we're getting rid of a kernel. And we are adding a kernel. 6.8.10. Alright, so let's say yes. 750 megabytes. Alright, updates are complete. The new kernel won't be working yet until I do a reboot, but just for the sake of argument, let's go ahead and run it again. Beginning to make me wonder if it's the cable that I'm plugged into, although it's supposed to be a USB 3.0 cable. Ah, it's only getting worse, I swear. Before we reboot, I want to move it. I'm going to plug it in directly to the computer and let's see what happens. Usually my mouse starts getting flaky when I plug something into the front of the computer because, of course, this is a wireless mouse. Alright, let's move it and see if it does any better. Alright, just plugged it directly into the computer. Let's see if our network shows up. Sure. And we are connected to Electric Eye, which is, of course, the Wi-Fi 6 router. There we go. It was pointed that way, which is towards the router. Now it's up. Let's see if that makes any difference. Looks like about the same, but considerably better. It's, I mean, well, no. Okay. I wonder if it, you know, if I get a different cable like a 3.2 USB cable, something like that, if it'll be consistent. Because it does pretty good when it's plugged in. I could plug it into the back of the computer. I mean, if I'm going to get a better speed than I am on my cable, I'm going to unplug that cable and plug it directly into the back of the computer. Make sure it's a USB 3.0, which I'm quite sure it is. That's one of the things that I made sure of when I started using my network card like this. But you never know. Maybe I'm wrong. So I think I'll start digging around in the back of the computer. I hate doing that. I have so many cables hanging out there. But this is really, really hopeful. I like this. This is good. Alright, well, system's running. I have the new network card plugged into a USB 3 little hub here. What I found out is I have a dismal amount of high-speed USB ports. So I've got one there. I've got a USB-C there, which I believe I had plugged in was my 16 terabyte external drive. These are normal USB ports, and then I have one there. So I've got the hub plugged into the one down there. I suppose I could consolidate these cables. I don't even know what that one's for, so I'm going to have to figure all that out. I've unplugged my microphone. I'll bet that's for my camera, because, you know, I capture in 4K on my camera. So, yeah, I'm going to have a look at that. Looks like the hub will be fine, so I could put it on top of the computer or on top of my other computer back there, my old computer, vintage, if you will. The connection I got, the speed I got was 2.39.59 download and 23.86 upload. That's respectable. That is what I'm looking for, at least that much. The thing is, I don't know. I might want to get the Netgear NetHawk because that isn't all that great. I expected to at least get at least 300. I'll think about it. We'll be back. So I'm trying to try the NIC network interface card. the new one, AX3000 here in, yeah, you guessed it, Windows 10. So I downloaded the driver. It will not unzip. It says it's corrupt. So I went ahead and downloaded WinZip to see if WinZip could open it, and I got this message. That's great. I really don't feel like updating Windows. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. Unfortunately, unlike Linux, the kernel, the driver rather, for this particular network card is not built into the kernel. All right, I installed 7-zip, and of course, it worked perfectly. The driver has been downloaded. Now we will install it, and I'm sure we have to reboot. All right, comrades, so we are in Windows 10. And this is one of those reasons why I say it's good to have a dual boot, because if you're having something going on with hardware or something like that in Linux, you can boot over into Windows and see how it behaves there. One thing I did notice, while I was in Linux, it told me that the max driver speed was 574 megabits. Now that is the maximum speed for the 2.4 gigahertz network. So I have a suspicion that it's automatically going to the 2.4 instead of the 5 gigahertz. So I wanted to see if the same thing would happen in Linux, in Windows. But before I can do that, I had to download the driver, and it is installed. So let's try and connect to Electric Eye. Does anybody know what band created that song without Googling it? All right, so we are connected. We are indeed connected. So I had to grab my old trusty Netgear. This thing has come in so handy because most operating systems automatically recognize it. Okay, let us go to speedtest.net. And let's see what happens on Windows. So we're using the new network card, USB network card in Windows. And I'm just going to say allow for right now. Huh? What's that tell you? I'm actually very happy. It tells me that for whatever reason, Linux is kicking the network card into 2.4 gigahertz mode instead of 5 gigahertz. Good. Very helpful. So all I need to do now is go back into Linux and figure out why it is automatically using the 2.4 gigahertz. That speed right there, I am tickled with. I'm really happy. Hopefully, I can get that working in Linux. So, experiment accomplished, sort of. Now we have to fix the problem, of course. So, let's boot back into Linux. Do you know this thing wanted me to do a bunch of updates? I'm not kidding you. It wanted me to do updates. And I'm like, I'm working here. I'm trying to do stuff. Anyway, see you in a few. All right, so mystery after mystery. Got back into Linux, download speed 219.52. And initially I was on Electric Eye 3, the extender. And of course I got a much lower number, and I was really disappointed in that. But if I go up here to Electric Eye and look at the connect speed, now it's saying connection speed of 720.6 mebibytes per second. Before it was saying 573, which, you know, is usually the theoretical maximum for the 2.4 gigahertz. So I'm not sure why in Linux I get such a slow connection.
Signal strength 68%. I don't consider that any of I don't consider it an issue because it worked fine in Windows. God, that sounds disgusting, but you know what I mean. It worked fine in Windows, so it should be able to do at least the same speed as Windows. It does say it's on the 5 gigahertz frequency now, but why is my connection speed so low?
Okay, so I booted up from a USB with Fedora Linux 37 on it, and I got the same exact score. So this was a clean install. It's not even an install, it's basically a live disk. And that's what I've got. So far, I'm not liking what I'm seeing. All right, well, I figured this was a long shot, but I opened up my Windows virtual machine within Linux and look at the speed rate. What the heck? How is it a virtual machine going through the network of the Linux host get a faster speed? I'm utterly baffled. All right, let's try it in Linux again. What the heck is going on? I don't want to lose what, a third of my downloadability. And what if I upgrade my internet connection? Am I going to be limited to 189 megabits? I did not think a virtual machine would actually do that. What the heck? Anyway, I'm going to download Ubuntu, put it on a USB and boot the Ubuntu, and I guess we'll try that and see what happens.
Okay, so using a virtual machine, we got a download speed of 317.17. So I thought maybe I should try a different browser. So I opened up Chromium. Look at all those beautiful ads you can get with Chromium. Anyway, look what I got, 326.39 down. So in actuality, the problem appears to be with Firefox. I could clear the cache and do some couple other things. Maybe that'll take care of it. I'm really not concerned. I'm just really happy that it works. Let's see if we can get another browser here. Interwebs. Let's try Conqueror. How many people use Conqueror as their main browser? Well, for one thing, it apparently... Oh, I thought it blocked ads. Oh well. Yeah, it's fine. I'll clear the cache on Firefox and we'll see if that'll help. What a crazy, crazy journey. Series of events. Absolutely insane. But I'm happy. I'm very happy with that. Look at that. Yes, yes, yes. That's good. And I don't have to worry about drivers and all that other nonsense. Whew. Now we can get to the actual testing. I want to move a file, that 5.2 gigabytes file that I have, back and forth from my Mac to the desktop computer and see if it does better than it did before. Should be interesting. And I'm assuming it'll do better. All right. So I've restarted Firefox in help. Wait, no, that's not what I did. Not help. Troubleshoot mode. And it disables the majority of the plugins and extensions. Actually, it disables all of them, I believe. So let's go ahead and do another test here with speed test. Waiting to see. There we go. We got our ads, so definitely the plugins are disabled. Let's see what we get. Really not that much better. I guess I don't download anything in Firefox. I don't know what else to say. Oh, eventually a new version will come out. Maybe that'll solve the problem. Okay, well, the network card is installed. It's working correctly, despite what Firefox may say. Really quickly here, I'll just close this and I'll bring up Chromium again. And just to be sure, we'll do Cloudflare's speed test. And we'll find out if our numbers are basically the same between speedtest.net and Cloudflare. Upload, nothing really new. I mean, that's pretty typical. All right, 296, I'll take it. But let's take a look at the stats. So the blue is the brand new router. The red is the old router. The blue, of course, 149.4 megabits per second. I want to mention also, I've taken out, you probably noticed this graph is much more simpler than it was. So I've taken out the same room testing and the other room testing. So all the testing I'm going to do is in the other room, as in my office. The router is in the room next door. So that's the most realistic usage case for me. So I want to make sure that the testing I do will illustrate that. Anyway, Pro to Air does quite good when transferring using the land speed test software. So I install this software on my MacBook Pro, and then I use a share that's available on the network from another computer, in this case, the MacBook Air, and I transfer files to it. It's dismal when you look at the older router, the EA6900. Pro to Desk originally, when I had that little AC adapter, the one that died 5 minutes after the testing. So it really wasn't all that great. And when I ran speed test, it wasn't all that great as well. So over here now is MacBook Pro to the desktop with the new network interface card. Let me put that up here again. So I was very pleased with the 191. It's actually higher than the Pro to Air. I retested this, and these are the numbers around there that I'm getting. So I don't know. Maybe it's a good card. Hard to say. The file transfer is when I take a 5.2 gigabyte file and transfer it between two computers. So in this case, it was the Pro to the Air. This is in seconds, so lower is better. And in the case of the MacBook Pro, the best score was 318, which is about half the score of the old router, which is good. And over here on the Pro to Desktop, on the old network card that was on the desktop, 528 was about the best I could get, and that was with the new router. This score here, I don't know what was going on. In this case, I was in a different room. I tried to run this test. It told me 42 minutes to transfer the 5.26 gigabyte file that I've been using for all these tests. Not really all that great. So I think it was a good thing that I got rid of the old router and the old network card. Now, MacBook Pro to desktop with the new NIC. Very good scores. We're looking at 348 seconds. Not quite as good as the MacBook Pro to the MacBook Air, but even so, I'm very happy with that. That's a really good score. Speed test, finally! I get a reasonable score on the very old 802.11ac network interface card, USB, lots of acronyms. I was getting about 122.12 on speed test. If you haven't done speed test before, go to speedtest.net and check it out and see how your internet speed is being impacted by your local area network. Hopefully when you run speed test, you should see The maximum speed available for your network connection, provided, of course, everything's running good out there on the internet between you and the test server that speed test sets up. 351, that's beautiful. I am paying for 300 megabits, so usually what happens with Xfinity is you get equal to or greater than what you're paying for. Some may say, no, that's not true. I'm paying for 300. I'm only getting 200. If that's the case, you need to complain to them. You need to call them up and say, hey, something isn't quite right. All the testing is complete. I'm happy with the connectivity. You know, for $25, I think I paid. This network interface card, pretty good. Not too bad. I was going to get an $80, actually I think it was $88 Netgear Nighthawk. Of course, I was looking for one that had drivers built into the kernel of Linux, and those aren't the easiest to find, especially for the newest networks. Now this card is a 6E, and I'm considering the idea of getting a different router that has 6E on it so that I can have pretty much the best network connection, local area network connection I'm going to get between my systems on Wi-Fi. Never is going to be as good as wired connections, but you know, why not boost it up a little bit more? I'll think about that. If so, there might be another network upgrade part 3. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like and subscribe. If you really liked it, drop me a line. Tell me what you think in the comments and what you've done with your networks. I'm very curious. Thanks for watching. This is Fast Gadgets.